Would you like to learn how to use your air more effectively? Would you like your upper register to sound lighter and feel easier? Would you like to add a greater level of musical expressiveness and maturity to your playing? If so, try my attacks and pushes system. This has helped me and my students a great deal over the years. Welcome back to another episode in a treasure trove of tried and true trumpet tips. I'm going to be talking primarily today about slurring, but the same principles generally apply when using a light legato tongue as well. Basically, there are two directions of slurs, ascending and descending. First, I'll talk about ascending slurs. Anytime you've got an ascending slur, you need to do two main things with those notes. We attack the lower first note very strongly and immediately, getting a full, brilliant tone and getting the air injected into the note exactly at the very beginning of the note, like this. Not like this. Now, the second part of the gesture in an ascending slur is what we do with the second and subsequent notes. We want to float on up to those other notes. I like to think of it as buy one, get one free. So buy one, we put all this energy into that first note, get one free. No energy on the top note. In fact, if it doesn't want to speak at all, let it not speak. That's okay. Sometimes it can take a little while to get used to letting that top note speak or not speak if it doesn't want to, but we must not make it happen. No force must be used. No extra energy must go into the top note. So it would go like this. If you do it incorrectly, it'll sound like this. Almost like crescendoing to the second note. Imagine also jumping on a trampoline. We bounce downward. When we get to the bottom of the bounce, there's a lot of pressure there. But then we float up in the air until it stops, and then we go back down again. The notation I like to use in my music to indicate the attack gesture is a downward vertical arrow over the first note of the attack, and then a little squiggly line going up, showing that I float upward. Or sometimes I might write FL for float, or maybe even don't write either of those two things once I get used to doing it. Sometimes I'll just do the vertical arrow alone. Now, if we connect three or more notes, we can do the same exact thing. If we go up a scale, for example, at the very beginning of the slur, you do the attack gesture, you got to be full out, and then you float on up the rest of the notes. So a scale might sound like this. That can be like a buy one, get two free, or three, or four, or however many free. You pay for the first note and take the rest of them for free. If you were to do an arpeggio, three or more notes going upward, once again, we bounce or we attack on the first note and then we float up to the rest of the notes, like this. The second part of this lesson deals with descending slurs. What we do on descending slurs is sort of the opposite of the attack gesture, but not exactly. Instead, we push gradually down to the bottom note. We tap the first note very lightly, and then we push gradually to the bottom note, arriving at our full out sound right at the very beginning of the bottom note. So if I were to do a real simple slur from D down to C, for example, you attack the first note very, very lightly, and then what we want to do is push gradually into the bottom note, arriving at our full, brilliant sound and full airflow at the very beginning of the bottom note. want to do is go very suddenly. What a lot of people do is they don't time their push very carefully. So what we need to do is make sure that we're not arriving at our full tone quality prior to hitting the bottom note. So if you get there early, it'll be like this. You don't want that. Instead, we want the notation I like to use in my music to indicate the push gesture is a diagonal arrow going downward to the right, from the first note to the last note of the push. Just like with the attack gesture, whenever we have 3 or more notes that are descending in a slur, we do the same thing. We attack the very first note very, very lightly with no energy at all, and then we do a gradual push all the way to the bottom note, like this. Or a longer scale might be. Or if I were to do arpeggios. Anytime you're doing a slurring, if you're going up and down melodies, what we basically do is we attack on the bottoms and we float to the tops, and then we turn it around and we start pushing down to the bottoms again. There's just one more gesture in this system that I want to talk about, and it combines both pushes and attacks. I call it the push attack. This gesture is used whenever we slur downward and then reverse direction and continue the slur back upward, all within the same slur. The way we handle this is we simply push down or intensify our airstream down toward that bottom note, timing the push such that we arrive at our full out intensity right at the very beginning of the bottom note. At that point, we float back upward again. And the only difference between this and a regular attack on that bottom note is that we don't use our tongue in this case. However, we still need that same immediacy of airflow and intensity right at the very beginning of the bottom note. It goes like this. I hope that makes sense. Another example, something out of Robert Getchell's first book of practical studies, is in number 19, in the 4th line, 2nd and 3rd measures, there are examples of push attacks. In the 2nd measure, we push from the A to the E, and then we press on that E and float up to the G. And in the next measure, we push from the C to the A. At that point, we think of attacking the A, but without a tongue, of course, and then we float upward to the D. These measures should sound like this. And in number 21, we see another example in the 2nd measure. Here, the B flat to the G is a descent, so we push between those 2 notes. Then we attack the G without a tongue, float to the A, and then turn it right back around and push all the way down to the low C. This should sound like this. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to apply this to a real piece of music. You can apply this to any piece you play, and you'll find that your air flows so much smoother, your tone speaks smoother, things are easier, and there's more general overall musicality to everything you play. So let's start with a real simple exercise, something out of Robert Getchell's first book of practical studies. Let's take a look at number 27. What we need to do is first take a look, where's the first slur? Here it is in measure 2. We see that it's a descending slur. We want to attack the E on top very, very lightly, and then we want to push gradually to the C sharp, being full out when we arrive at the C sharp. So this passage, these 3 notes, would sound like this. The next slur is in measure 4, and in that measure it's just 2 notes, a descending slur, so this would be played like this. Next, 2 measures later, in measure 6, we have an ascending slur. And on this, we want to do the attack gesture. So we attack the first note very strongly, and then I simply float up to the next 2 notes. So in this case, it's a buy 1, get 2 free. All right, now in the next measure, we have another ascending slur. So that's going to be an attack and a float. And then in the next measure, there's a descending slur. So that's going to be the push gesture. In the second line, third measure, here we've got an ascending slur of 4 notes. We attack the first note, and then we float up through the rest of those notes. Then a couple bars later, we've got a descending slur, so there's the push. And then in the third line, first measure, we have an ascending slur, so we do the attack and float gesture. And then another one, attack and float. And then a couple bars later, there's a descending slur, so we'll do the push gesture there. And then in that second to last measure, the first 2 beats, there's a slur that starts downward and then comes up. All in one big gesture. We start the C lightly, we push into the G, we land on it full out and treat it like an attack, and then float up to the A, like this. Ti-ya-da. The last slur on this line goes from B to D. That's ascending, so that's going to be an attack gesture. Now we've analyzed this number 27, and let's play it. 1, 2, 3. So if I were to take a simple melody like, well, let's say, Oh Danny Boy, it might sound like this. What this system does is it promotes great flexibility in the size of the opening of our lips, or the aperture. When we play loud, low notes, the aperture is very open. And when we play soft, high notes, the aperture must be very, very small. And so by doing these exercises, we can promote this great flexibility without thinking consciously about the size of the opening in our lips, which can cause problems. This will improve our tone quality, add greater expression and musicality to our playing, and just generally make us more aware of our airflow when we play, which is always a good thing. And so there you go. There's the whole gist of my attacks and pushes system. Please take a moment to go over to my other video with the attacks and pushes exercises. It's a play-along video, and try it out in your practicing and let me know how it works for you. I hope it helps. Thanks for watching, and good luck. I hope you enjoyed that. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more trumpet content. See you next time.